Hi, I'm Dorothy. Are you ready to dive deep into one of the bougiest zip codes in the country? The good, the bad, the ups and downs, the real and the not so real. This is That Greenwich Life. All right. Hey, guys. Welcome back to That Greenwich Life. I am your host, Dorothy Cascerceri Simone, and I'm so happy to have you back with me. I'm so pumped to be back at the Pod Populi studio in Greenwich, Connecticut. Pod Populi has been so great. They make everything so easy. They take out all the hard parts so that I can just have fun. So, I've been saying something about this show that it's kind of like how in Sex and the City, it wasn't about New York City, even though the title of this podcast is That Greenwich Life. This is a show about so much more than Greenwich, Connecticut. However, we do want, like any good writer, like any good novelist, we do want to place our characters in their setting. We want you to know, what is this magical place that I'm talking about week after week? What is this very extravagant, bougie suburb all about? And so today we're going to kind of unpack that. And I have a very special guest joining me later in the show. You may have seen her on the Today Show. 1 minute she's heading to Cannes for the film festival. The next minute she's in Miami for Swim Week. A minute after that, Gabby Bernstein, the Gabby Bernstein, is featuring her on her Instagram. I'm going to be joined later in the show by People Magazine's style and beauty director, Andrea Lavinthal. She's a friend of mine. She lives here in Greenwich. She's a mom of two. And we love that People Magazine alum connection because, as you know, I've mentioned before in the show, I used to work for People Magazine, interviewing celebrities on all the red carpets, and Andrea does the same. And so it'll be really fun to chat with her a little bit later in the show about this community and what's it all about. But my main thing that I still want to keep saying over and over again is my goal for the show is you don't have to live in Greenwich or even know where it is on a map to relate to and enjoy this show. That is my goal. Just like I am completely obsessed with the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Real Housewives of New Jersey, Real Housewives of Orange County. I don't live in any of those places, but I love seeing what's going on there. It's about so much more than just those locations. So today we're really going to unpack it. So let's start with Greenwich, Connecticut. Okay, so where are we? Where are we on the map? We're a suburb outside of New York City. We're about, depends on traffic. Maybe it takes you an hour to get into the city. It depends on what part of the city you're going to. You can hop onto Metro North at the bottom of Greenwich Avenue, and you can get into the city on an express train for about maybe 45 minutes. It will take you 50 minutes. So it's definitely not far. We have a lot of commuters. We have a lot of people who've moved here from New York City, which is what makes this community so extra and so extravagant, because we have a lot of highly educated, highly successful people who are rocking it in their career and who have incredible backgrounds, and they're all here kind of in this adult playground, what I like to call it at least. What's interesting about Greenwich, if you would believe this, it's kind of crazy. I mean, of course we know the housing market is insane. This is not a real estate show, but it would be really, I'd be doing you a disservice if I did not mention this fact, okay? The median house price right now in Greenwich as of a month ago, which is May of 2024. So if you're listening to this podcast a year or two later, the median house price is $3.7 million for a single family home, if you would believe that. Guys, I grew up, like I've said, in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, which is a tiny suburb outside of Philadelphia. I came home from the hospital to a home that was a tiny 3-bedroom, which 3 bedrooms is still big, tiny 3-bedroom with 2 bathrooms, a detached garage. This is such a different experience for me. And the way that my son, as you know, I have an 8-year-old son, I have a 1-year-old daughter, and the way that they're growing up is so different than anything that I've ever been used to. So I guess the question is, how did I end up here? How do most people end up here is the question. Like I said, a lot of people come from New York City. I am no exception to that. My husband and I were living in the city. Now I started out in a very small apartment on 54th and 1st in Midtown East. That apartment was such a dump. I mean, I had such a big mouse infestation for about a year or two there. And let me tell you, when I met my husband and he said, let's move in together to the West Village, the swanky West Village, you don't know how many tears I cried leaving this little third floor walk-up apartment in Midtown East. I did not want to leave. It was my tiny little haven in a crazy city. And he whisked me away to this luxury building on Greenwich Street. Okay, I'm going to get to that. On Greenwich Street, the Archive building in the West Village, to this top floor apartment, duplex apartment, 2 full bathrooms, beautiful views of the Hudson River. It was kind of dreamlike. And, it kind of reminded me a little bit of, the whole Carrie Bradshaw big thing. I moved to this apartment on Greenwich Street. And then we were very, very fortunate. We ended up buying our place in Greenwich Village at 9th and University, right by Washington Square Park. So I think all roads were leading me to Greenwich, Connecticut, because it went from Greenwich Street to Greenwich Village to Greenwich, Connecticut. In fact, when we got our dog, whose name is Bleecker, by the way, for Bleecker Street, the big joke was, should we name the dog Greenwich? Because it's just been this trend in our life, but that would have been absolutely ridiculous to be living in Greenwich and have a dog named Greenwich. So we didn't do that, thank God. So his name is Bleecker, which is an ode to our great memories in the city. Our son Nicholas was born there, and he was 1 year old when we moved out of the city. And we looked at every single suburb. I mean, we were constantly, every single weekend, going to open houses. First, we were in New Jersey. We were in, I think, Summit, New Jersey, and all of those surrounding areas. Then we were in Long Island. We were in Garden City, Manhasset. Then we were in Westchester County. We were in Pelham and Rye and Bronxville. We looked everywhere. And while my husband and I do not agree on many things, as you will come to see throughout this podcast, it was crazy. When we got to Greenwich, we always said, oh no, Connecticut, we're not going to live in Connecticut. Nothing against Connecticut, but it just, for us, there was nothing about it that we really connected to. Long Island, my husband's from Long Island. New Jersey, I grew up on the Jersey Shore. Westchester County felt very close to New York City, but Connecticut felt like this totally different place. And so we came to Greenwich, and I just remember driving around, and it was the first time in a long time that my husband and I looked at each other and we totally agreed on something. Like, this is where we belong. This is where we want to live. This feels like an extension of New York City. There are 60,000 people living in Greenwich. And so there's this level of anonymity that we really liked, because living in New York City, it's sometimes a small town, but you can still walk out your door and go anywhere in the city and not run into people. In fact, I'll tell you this short story. When we were looking in Rye, New York, which is a beautiful town, oh my gosh, the school is so gorgeous and the people are so kind and so friendly, and we really liked Rye. But when the realtor said to us, this is what I love most about my town. When my son walks across the street, is jaywalking, she said. When my son is jaywalking across the street and not paying attention to the light changing, I will be getting a text message from 2, 3, 4 different people telling me that this just happened. And my husband and I looked at each other in the back seat of that car and said to ourselves, nope, this is not for us. We do not want everybody in our business. We do not want to have like a house where everything is so close that our neighbors are going to be hearing us screaming at each other, because there is some of that happens in my house. Let's keep it real. And we just kind of knew that we needed to be somewhere that was a little bit bigger. And once we got to Greenwich Avenue, which is the main area in Greenwich where all the great shopping is, there are all the typical stores you can find anywhere. Starbucks, CVS, J.Crew, Sephora, Zara. That's where I shop, by the way. But then there's Saks Fifth Avenue, Hermes, Love Shack Fancy, high-end official Rolex jewelers. That's not where I typically shop. There's a Restoration Hardware, an Apple store. There used to be a Tesla dealership. I'm not sure if that's still there. It's full of excellent restaurants with extensive wine and cocktail lists that make us feel like we're out in New York City. There's a park, a playground for the kiddos to play, and of course, all the local stores that sell toys and baby clothes, which I love supporting. It's a really special place, and especially around the holidays, it's all lit up in white lights and just stunningly beautiful. There's a lot of history on Greenwich Avenue, and it's just a gorgeous tree-lined street. A little bit hard to find parking some days, but that's besides the point. And when we saw Greenwich Avenue, we were just saying to each other, okay, like this feels like an extension of New York City. It feels like an extension of the place and the life that we love, that we're leaving behind, and that we're hoping to have in this suburb. So that's kind of how we got here. But we did run into a tiny problem when we were house hunting, as I'm sure now even more so people are running into this problem. You know, coming from New York City, the real estate is so expensive. You know, if you're gonna pay at the time, now the times have changed, but at the time, you know, you're gonna pay $1.5, $2 million for 1,000 square feet, depending on what neighborhood you're in. And so we expected to move to the suburbs and, you know, have this huge house with this huge backyard and all of these great things. We're gonna have like a walkout patio. We made this list. We're gonna have a 3-car garage. We're gonna have, you know, a street with sidewalks. We're gonna have a vaulted, you know, cathedral ceiling in our family room. We had this huge list thinking like, oh, we got it. And then we got here. And the sticker shock was real. The real estate here is kind of crazy. And our process of trying to find a house was a nightmare. It is a miracle that we stayed married during this year and a half ordeal. I don't think my husband would even mind me saying that because it is the truth. We were house hunting every single weekend. We ended up selling our apartment in the city at the top of the market, thank God. But my husband always says he would give that back just to not have me completely melt down and have a nervous breakdown over leaving the city and moving to the suburbs. I grew up in the suburbs of Philly. You would think I've never lived in the suburbs before, but living in New York City for 13 years and then making that transition was very difficult. And trying to find a house that we liked in an area that we liked with the things that we liked. Some people said we were being too picky, and they were probably right, but you know how it goes, right? If you're searching for a new home or a new apartment, as we all are at one point in time, maybe some of you are actually even on Zillow right now, this very minute, but if you're looking for a new place to live, it can be so very stressful, especially if you're really unhappy where you are, or if you're being forced out, or if you're up against a tight timeline. Let's face it, almost no one, I'm going to go ahead and say almost no one. Well, actually, no, I know one woman, my neighbor, but almost no one is born, comes home from the hospital to a house, and lives in that house their entire life and dies in that house. So moving around from home to home, town to town, whatever your path has been and currently is, it's really an experience we all share. If you aren't in it right this very minute, I know you've been there and I know you will be again. So like, I know that each and every one of you can definitely relate to how hard and stressful this process can be. But I look at it as if you know what you want, and you are focused on that, you have to be patient, you have to be determined, and you have to really ride that wave until you get what you're looking for or close to in that respect. We had so many ridiculous stories. We put in so many offers on homes and we got outbid. And that's when the market was kind of pretty soft. I mean, this was 2016. So it was nothing like it is now in a post-COVID real estate world where the homes are flying off the shelves. But the thing about our house hunt that was crazy is we were really thinking that we would maybe at some point not even be able to live here because we could not find anything close to what we were looking for. We were very humbled by the experience, let me tell you, because people were coming in with all cash offers and just blowing us out of the woods. And it was tough. It was a humbling experience. There was a lot of arguing. My son was only, maybe 1 year old at the time. And it was a long long process. But like all difficult things, and this is definitely a theme that I'm going to touch on in this podcast, because whether you're looking for a new house or whether you're looking for a new job or you're looking for a significant other or you're trying to have a child or whatever it might be, whatever in your life that you're seeking that is not right there at this moment when you want it and when you probably deserve it, it's okay, and the journey is there. The difficult journey is there to better serve you in the end. I didn't know this at the time, but all the homes that we ended up not moving into, all the deals that ended up falling through, all of those things were there really for us, not against us. And that is a big, big theme that I have learned through my journey of infertility and pregnancy loss and IVF. And I want to be able to talk about that throughout this show as something that you can apply to things that are really difficult that you're going through. And our house hunt was certainly one of those things. And I look back and I think to myself, that was so excruciating, not knowing where we're living, not knowing, if we could even live in this town that we really fell so deeply in love with, and I wish that I knew then what I know now, which is when these things are happening and when things are messy, you really have to lean into them in order to survive them. And instead of taking this kind of victim approach, which I was back then, I was very, very victimized. I hate to say it, but I will admit when I'm wrong. I will admit when I am misguided. And back then I was so victimized by this roller coaster that I felt like we were on with trying to find a home and trying to make a home for ourselves and make a home for our family. The first 6 months after we moved here and we were in a rental were really, really difficult for me. I have to be really honest with you guys. I had a 1-year-old baby at home pretty much by myself, no family anywhere nearby. My husband was still commuting to the city, working in the city. He was out entertaining with clients, 2 or 3 nights a week. I really didn't know anybody when I first moved here. I was really, really lonely. It was December. It was cold. It was dark. It was getting dark around 4:30 in the afternoon. The days were long. I didn't know what to be doing with my child. And then my son ended up getting RSV and was hospitalized about a month after we moved here. That was a really, really scary and really low point for me. I would say I definitely was suffering from some depression. I was definitely, so upset that we couldn't find our home. I was upset that we had left the city. I was questioning everything that we left behind. I was questioning this decision to even move out of the city or move to Greenwich specifically. And I think when we go through hard things, we tend to do this, right? We second guess ourselves. We say, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this, or maybe I should have done something different sooner. Looking back, it's easy to be our best critic. And I was criticizing myself. There was a lot of negative self-talk. There was a lot of talk of how I created this miserable situation for myself. And I was definitely very, very sad, and I was depressed, and I was trying to find a new therapist here that I could talk to, and it was a rough time. But it's actually, interesting to look back on how hard it was, because now I look, and not even just now, but maybe over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, I look at living in Greenwich and I look at the experience of living here and the community and the people and all the things, all the preconceived notions that I had of maybe the negative parts of this community. And I can't even believe that I felt that way for so long, because I absolutely just love living here now. And it's part of one of the reasons why I came up with the concept of That Greenwich Life for this show and for all of my content that I produce on Instagram, because I really love my town. I really love my community. I am really humbled by living here. I'm so grateful for living here. I'm so in awe of living here and all of the incredible, incredible things. I always make a joke that it's so easy to be so busy here and to be oversubscribed and overscheduled and overplanned, because on any given day, at any given moment, there are so many irresistible invitations to things and awesome things to do that you have a hard time saying no. And so I'm just always, so grateful looking back on how hard it was getting here and how hard it was to find our forever home and how hard it was to get comfortable here. I now look at life here and I really just am so grateful. So I really hope that wherever you live, I'm sure you have your own journey getting there. I'm sure that it wasn't easy, or maybe it was, sometimes those really meant to be things, they happen organically and without a ton of effort. And then you really know that that's where you're meant to be. But whatever your journey was, where you are now, where you're living now, whether you went from the city to the suburbs or whether you're in the city still and wanting to move to the suburbs and scared to move to the suburbs like I was, I hope that this sheds a little bit of light for your own personal journey and the path that you're walking by yourself or with a family, with your kids, whoever you're walking that journey with. So without further ado, we're going to welcome our guest that I already teased, and we're going to chat a little bit more about Greenwich and this bougie luxury world that we live in that still blows my mind. But first, a quick thank you to our sponsors. This show is sponsored by Party Host Helpers and The Big Picture. If you're throwing a party or event and need help, just like I did recently, Party Host Helpers provides nationwide service for all your party staffing needs. Their bartenders came to my rescue mixing up delicious cocktails for my guests, and their general helpers did all the dirty post-party cleanup. Learn more today at partyhosthelpers.com or give them a call at 844-30-PARTY. The Big Picture is an arts and crafts store in Riverside, Connecticut with a mission to create a brighter world through art. They sell unique and creative gifts and offer workshops and drop-in crafting with DIY tables to make endless creative projects. Check them out at thebigpictureart.com. And special thanks to Pod Populi Studios. They take the hard parts out of podcasting. And now, back to the show. So this is a really exciting moment because I am joined with my very first guest on That Greenwich Life, the fabulous Andrea Lavinthal. She is the style and beauty director for People magazine. You can find her in Cannes. You can find her in Miami. She just popped up on Gabby Bernstein's Instagram. She's your good friend from college, right? I mean, Andrea is my friend here in Greenwich. She's a mom of two. Welcome to the show.
I'm so honored to be your first guest.
Well, it means a lot to me. Thank you for carving out some time in your busy schedule to come on here and chat with me.
Well, if anyone asks, I'm at the doctor.
Exactly.
Work wants to know. Had a quick appointment.
Exactly. The thing is, Andrea, one thing that I love about you is that you have this kind of very self-deprecating take on living in Greenwich. And I remember seeing something that you posted on your Instagram, and your Instagram is
Andy Lavs.
Andy Lavs. And I remember you posting something about these napkins, these cloth napkins that you had. Like, I only have a table setting for 6, or I only have a table setting for 7, not 8. Like, I wonder if they'll still let me live in Greenwich,
Yeah. And it's funny, to be in your 40s with 2 kids with a house in Greenwich and not have enough table settings for your Passover Seder is a very humbling moment. You wonder how you live.
Yeah, exactly.
How they let you in.
Exactly. Well,
what are the people going to say when they come and we have mismatched water glasses?
How dare you?
Yeah.
We always thought Greenwich, it's this, Robin, it's I hear Robin Leach's voice in my head, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And when we came to Greenwich, we just fell in love with it. And we tried to move here, like I was saying, and it was really, really hard. It was hard to find something. And so what were some of your preconceived notions? For me, I thought, okay, everybody wears Lilly Pulitzer, which I said this already. If you wear Lilly Pulitzer and you love Lilly Pulitzer, if your entire closet is full of Lilly Pulitzer, if your name is Lilly Pulitzer, I don't hate on you. I love that people do what works for them. But for me, that made me very apprehensive.
Right.
The popped collars, the very the whale belts, the very trendy, very preppy kind of New England lifestyle. That made me very apprehensive. I've come to find that it's not all that. It's some of that.
No, it's not. So I guess I thought, it was very blonde and popped collar and country club and sailing. And I'm from New Jersey. My husband's from Boston. I didn't really think we'd fit in. And I wasn't oh, this is going to be awful. But I'm just like, oh, I don't really know how many different types of people we're going to meet here.
Right.
And really during the pandemic, it was so weird. Everybody was so scattered, all around that it felt, we still felt very transient. We didn't feel like this was our community. But as we started to meet people who had either just moved themselves or were new-ish, we were like, oh, everyone seems kind of normal. And to be honest, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
I was like, where's my friend with 22 bathrooms? Where's the private plane?
Right.
Why is no one being chauffeured? Like, people seem normal. And that's a real bummer because now I have like nothing to talk about. So when people would ask me like, how's Greenwich? They'd be so surprised when I'd be like, it's good. Like, I joke, like, there's a lot of different shades of blondes here and there you will find some brunettes, but it's
very few.
It's a huge place. And I think that was the most surprising to me is like, there's 65,000 people,
right. 7
elementary schools.
Right.
That's a lot of people.
It is.
They don't all look the same.
That is exactly
They don't
right.
all live in the same 22 bathroom house.
Yep. That's what I love about Greenwich too, to your point, the fact that there are so many people who are more like us, and there are a lot of people that have the private jets. And I mean, listen,
they're not my friends, and I'm waiting, and I want an invite.
When my son was 3 years old, he flew on a private plane, and I think at the time I was 40, and that was my first time
really
on a private
unfair.
plane. So, by the way, not my private plane, but the thing is, like, there are those people here, and then there are a lot of people who are very down to earth, and that's kind of the nice thing. And it's almost.
I like that you think I'm down to earth.
Well, it's all relative, right?
Right.
Like, I consider myself to be down to earth.
You are.
I still have some nice things. I don't have an entire walk-in closet of Chanel bags, but also that's not me. That wouldn't be me. So that wouldn't make sense for me.
It is kind of funny. Like, there are days when I get, there's a Yiddish word, it's verputzt. I don't even know if that's an official word. It's a word my mother used. It means all like dressed up, like she's verputzt to go to lunch. And there's days when I'm like, oh, I'm in my Greenwich best. Like I got decked. And other days when I'm not.
Right.
And like, I don't really think anyone cares. And it's disappointing.
Yeah.
I was like, well, we're going to lean into the Greenwich of it all. And the people we know and that we hang out with are pretty normal and relaxed. And it doesn't have, it's fun to have that sort of bubble around it, that air of like Greenwich. It's really not like that.
Right.
I mean, at least again, the people who want to be friends with me.
But also where you live, I feel like might be a little bit different because I live in mid-country. Mm-hmm. So mid-country, just for
that means she has acres. She has acreage. That's code for we have land.
So I have a tiny bit. I don't have a huge yard, but I do live in an area of town where there are really large properties with a lot of land and mostly pools. I mean, I always joke, like, I never wanted a pool because I just always had this fear with children around pools, and it's so much work. I never grew up with a pool. Meanwhile, my son is, like a champion swimmer on like the YMCA swim team. So I have to get him a pool. I know. I totally bought the wrong house for this like son that loves to swim. But where I live, it's a little bit different because there's a big private school community. Most people go to private schools. That's a different type of, I'm not going to stereotype, but the private school families, it's a whole different thing. Like we go to public school and we love our school and we would never go anywhere else. You go to our fundraiser and it's really impressive. I know that you emceed your school fundraiser.
I did. I doubt I will be invited back next year. I think I will be like a one and done Oscar host.
I doubt that.
Who went up in flames. I dropped the F-bomb a lot. What's funny about that is like, that was my first, so I emceed the Temple Shalom preschool one. Okay. And I was a one and done. And I was still relatively new to Greenwich. And I was like, well, okay, I guess the sense of humor is not mine. But then they asked me to do it for the elementary school. And it was really hard. It was so loud.
So loud.
No one's paying attention.
They do not be quiet. Yep.
And
I did it for our school, which is why I'm trying again.
You're like, this is the worst. No one wants to hear me. I'm yelling. And then my husband started bidding on something. And
I hope it was something good.
In real time, yelling at him, like, what the fuck are you doing? Sorry. What? No.
Right.
Like, I'm not paid for this gig.
Right.
I already bought the tickets. I've already donated to the school. Put your paddle down, dude.
Right.
He won. And as I say, he won, we lost.
Wait, right, exactly.
And he's like, it's for the school, it's for the kids.
What did he win? What did he bid on?
An art party. Now, in all fairness, our son loves art. The art teacher at our elementary school is the coolest. I mean, what we could have done with that money.
I know. I know. My son.
I'm glad it's for the children, but
right. It's for the school. Well, and also I also emceed ours, and I was the live auctioneer. And it's funny. My friend Michael Kay, who is the announcer for the Yankees, not to name drop, but he and his wife Jody are really good friends, and they live here in Greenwich. And he gave me such a great piece of advice, which I wish I would have known before. It was actually my third year being the live auctioneer and emceeing the event for the school. I'm just a sucker for punishment. I did it last year.
You obviously don't curse and yell at your husband in front of everyone.
Well, I didn't curse, but I did it the year before, and I was extremely pregnant with my daughter. In fact, I went to the hospital the next morning. Impressive. I didn't have her the next morning. I had her the following Saturday. But Michael Kay gave me such a great piece of advice. Instead of trying to quiet the crowd and talk over them, I actually, even that year, I told them I was going into labor just to hope that maybe everybody would He said, if you just quietly say into the mic, shh, it shames people. Yeah. And they kind of are like children again. And then they all get quiet.
You have to flick the lights.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I think at one point I yelled, "Can you hear me in the back?" And someone yelled, "Yes." And I said, "I can fucking hear you too. Shut up." And again, I'm not surprised I wasn't invited back, but it's a very difficult job. So I'd like to see somebody else.
It is a difficult
handle it
job.
with grace and dignity. It was not me.
My poor son, I donated, volunteered all these hours of my time for this event.
Yeah, I know, 2 hours.
And then my poor son.
Talent only.
Well, I said next year, talent only, but my poor son was like, I really want to win principal for the day.
Oh, God.
Dad, can you bid on it? And now, meanwhile, just to give a sense for, now this is going to be now a Greenwich thing, right? This auction item goes for $2,000, maybe even more. And it's great because it's for the school. But my mentality was the same as yours. Mommy has spent hours and hours on Zooms working this event out, getting all these auction items, and then being at the event on the microphone. We're not also going to buy one of these high-ticket, high-priced auction items.
Well, my husband didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
And now I am organizing an end-of-year art party. And
so it's work. It's actually work for you too. So you got to spend.
I get to take the day off from work.
Spend the money, take the day off of work. Yeah. Organize the party.
Have a rain date in case it rains, because I don't want those kids in my house doing art.
No chance.
It's going to be
especially if there's paint involved.
10 or 12 kids. I'm like, why did you punish me?
Yeah.
You spent money to ruin my day.
Yeah. And I love
for the children.
I love that he was the hero at the auction.
Oh my God. Everybody was like, I can't believe he did that. I was like, I can't believe he did that.
And then you're the one that has to coordinate everything and scrub paint.
I've never seen
scrub paint off of your outdoor furniture, or maybe your indoor furniture if it rains.
Yeah. It was just blindly generous. Really just wonderful to watch. I was astounded. And it was like a 90s theme, which I don't know if you want, this is your podcast. We can talk about what you want. But the one thing that comes up constantly when people ask me about Greenwich is, why do I go to so many theme parties?
Yes. I love that. And it's a great question.
And, I think pre-Greenwich me would have rolled my eyes at theme parties. Seriously, you're grown-ups. Why are you in your reliving college with these outfits?
Oh no. When I see a theme party invitation, I'm so excited. I'm on Amazon immediately ordering my things. Halloween has always been my favorite holiday.
Yeah. And you know what? I really gave it some thought, and I thought about going to the parties, getting dressed up for them, all that. And now I say, look, you know who I do not want to be on a Saturday night? Myself. I don't want to spend every Saturday night going out to dinner to the same 5 restaurants with the same 5 couples, debating whether or not we should order Brussels sprouts for the table, the side, or should we
Truffle
get this
fries
to start? And I mean, it's fine. What are you guys doing this summer? Where are you going? How's everything at work?
How's Nantucket?
Blah, blah, blah. Did you sign up for soccer? I've never been to Nantucket.
Okay. I've only been there once or twice.
That's how you know I'm not from Greenwich. But it's you know what? I'm going to put on a cowboy hat and some glitter on my face, and I'm not going to talk to you about soccer.
That's exactly right.
And if you do talk to me about soccer, I'm going to tell you not tonight, Stephanie.
Exactly.
Like, we're not doing that tonight. We're not talking about like the art party.
Yes.
We are cowgirls tonight.
Well, so I remember seeing you last summer at the amazing Over the Top America party. And I mean, you know, now our friend is an event planner who threw this party.
She did my wedding.
Did she?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
After that party, I was like, I want that girl to do my wedding.
I think we have to give her a shout out. Lauren
Schweibold,
Schweibold, her
Madison Events.
Madison Events. She is so incredible at what she does. And that party was insane. I mean, there was a huge blow up. I'm going to let that go by. There was a huge blow up water slide. And by the way, there were no children at this party.
No.
This was a party. There was a beer pong table. There was a dunk tank.
There was a full backyard full of foam.
There was a full backyard full of foam. Now, I had been to one of those foam parties before with the kids. I thought it was like, oh, this is a fun thing for the kids.
Nope.
Because I was there at my other friend's house maybe 2 summers ago. And now this time it was not for the kids. It was for the adults. And you get some, I mean, there was a full bar with bartenders. So you get some drinks and adults and they're in the foam. I was in the foam.
I had the time of my freaking life. And you know that I am having fun if I get my hair wet.
Yes,
I
literally
blow dried and styles my hair. I was dressed as my state of New Jersey. I represented with various accoutrements. I got on the water slide and got my hair wet. I went in the pool. I was in the foam longer than I was spring break 97.
That's exactly
Acapulco
right.
foam.
That's exactly right.
With my husband, like time of my life.
Yep.
And so after that, I was like, I want that at my wedding. Like I would have liked the foam.
The foam was huge. That was huge. The one, it's funny, like almost I feel like I'm aging backwards maybe in a good way.
Yeah.
Like mature. I'm not aging backwards. I look older than I did when I was younger, but I'm maturing backwards, I think, because when I went to Ibiza, or do they say Ibiza?
I don't know. I've never been because no one's ever flown me on their plane. I'm not going unless it's on a private
nobody
plane.
flew me on their plane, but when I went in my 20s, my early 20s, I remember being at Amnesia, which was a nightclub. I don't know if it's still there.
Sounds like the most horrible place already.
Well, let me tell you, it doesn't even start until like midnight.
It's a nightmare.
And now it's a complete nightmare. And
it was a nightmare when I was 16, 26.
Well, I guess at the time it was too, because it was my only time. I went on spring break. I did the whole Acapulco spring break, but I never saw the foam party. But at this particular nightclub in my early 20s, my friend and I ended up getting stuck in a foam party. And we were like ready to leave. We exited the room of the foam party because we were all dressed up nice. And we were ready to leave. It was 3:00 in the morning. And then we realized, oh, we left our credit cards behind the bar in the room where the foam party was. So we went into the foam very reluctantly. And so in my early 20s, when I'm supposed to be immature, I didn't want to go into the foam. And yet when I'm 42 in Greenwich, Connecticut, I was diving into the foam, so much so that I ended up arriving home later on that night barefoot because I left my shoes, my flip-flops in the foam.
Everybody did.
Everybody did. When I went back to the house the next
day for the Lost and Found table, I took pictures of it.
The Lost and Found was almost worse than a season at my country club with the swim team having done all of their meets.
The goggles,
the towels. It was almost worse than that.
Yeah,
and
but
there were
some
losing things. These
really
are
unmentionable things that were left behind.
It's so true.
That party was mostly off social, which for me is like a struggle. But I was like, I'm not posting this. This is private.
I definitely did a reel and I included some things in the reel, and Lauren called me and said, okay, you have to omit some of these things from the reel. I'm like, you know what? No problem. And I went in and edited and reposted.
I was like running around being like, nobody post a photo of me if I posted, okay. But like there was some crazy things happening. It was really fun.
Yeah, it was really fun.
It was fun. And I hope she does it again because I need an excuse to wear my sparkle mesh cover up again that I ordered from Amazon. That can't be a one and done piece.
No, I'm sure there'll be another theme party that you can wear that too.
I have coming up a saddle up. It's actually not in Greenwich. It's in Chappaqua.
Okay.
Boo.
Yeah.
But like even our non-Greenwich friends just they can't get over what
goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually saddle up, that reminds me, because I think there was a mechanical bull at this party that we were both at. That
yes, I wrote
about.
it.
Yes. I didn't write it. I did not write it, but I just got the email from the country club about the the party that they're having coming up with the mechanical bull.
I'm over the bull.
And it's all, I'm over the bull too.
Because every time I think I'm fun and I'm going to ride the bull, the next day, my thigh, it's like, I'm just not like limber. I never was, and I shouldn't be. And I think it's fun. And you think you look all cute and sexy. And then you see the video your friend shot and you look like you're having like a seizure. Like, it's terrible. It's just so embarrassing.
Well, on that note, I want to thank our special guest, Andrea Lavinthal.
That's it?
Yeah.
I'm a one and done, just like I was
She's
for the auction.
She's a one and done. They never invited her back for the auction, and we're never inviting her back here.
No,
I'm just
don't.
kidding. I'm just kidding. She is the style and beauty director for People Magazine. You probably have seen her on the Today Show. You can interact with her on Instagram at Andy Lavs. And please also check me out on Instagram at Dorothy on TV. I say in every episode, we all have our weekly workout, our daily workout. But here on That Greenwich Life, this is the piece of the show that we take home with us every week. And it's our weekly work on. It's something every week that we can do to really work on ourselves. It's a mindful minute. It's just something to kind of keep in the back of our head as we're in the carpool line, as we're running to work, as we're folding laundry. And this week, it centers around where we live. I want you to really take a moment and think about where you are in your home journey, let's call it. Maybe you're in your dream house. If you are, good for you. Or maybe you're not at all. Instead, maybe you're dreaming of finding a new place and leaving the town you're currently living in. But no matter where you are, compared to where you want to be, I want you to be thinking of 3 things at different points this week. Come on, guys, it's only 3. A week is long, it's 7 days, but I want you to be thinking of 3 things that you're really grateful for in terms of where you live. Even if it's not totally ideal, that's actually where the main challenge is for people who don't feel super satisfied and comfortable with where they are. But just think about something that has to do with your home or your apartment. It could be your town, your city, your community, even your country. Well, except my country these days, I'm not sure if you'll find too much, our country, I should say, but if you're listening in France or Germany or somewhere. But I want you to really think about it, and I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to share it on my Instagram at Dorothy on TV, so please follow me there, interact with me there, and share with me some of the things that you came up with. We can then have a moment of gratitude together, because no matter where you live or what your living situation is, this part's really important. This is an opportunity to find some good there and an opportunity for a small mindset shift, which oftentimes leads to a much larger energy shift. So that is your weekly work on. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's show. Check us out at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy your podcasts. And please remember to click the follow button, comment, rate, like. If you're going to leave a comment and a rating for the show, a review, actually, I should say, please go to the show's page, not the episode page, in order to do that. And please share. I wouldn't hate it if you popped the link into a group chat or 2. Thank you to Pod Populi. They take all the hard work out of podcasting so that I can just have fun with it. And thank you to my sponsors, Party Host Helpers, and The Big Picture. Tune in next week. And in the meantime, don't just live your life, love it.